and he changed our life completely. To have this much comfort and to spend all of our 40s and 50s completely free, to do whatever we wanted to do every day, it was just amazing. We got to the point where we were about 22,000 US plus a month. I think that's where we peaked. If you stick to the basic steps of making money online, you can do it, and there's nobody going to stop you from doing it. My wife and I went from making nothing. I was unemployed. I was an unemployed mechanic. I was just laid off of my base in Calgary, Alberta, in 2003, and we had a mountain of debt. We lived in the Lake Bonavista area, so I had a pretty big mortgage, and we had an RV, and we had a car, and we weren't exactly frugal people, right? We were having a lot of fun. And the only reason I moved to Calgary is because they told me, the airline told me that, look, we're going to keep that base open for a long, long time. And I had been through 2 base closures before that already. So I said, okay, well, I'll go to Calgary from Saskatoon, where we were living at the time. And I get to Calgary, and 6 months later, they tell us they're going to close the base. So I was like, oh my God. I mean, at least we had a little bit of notice. I think it was like 3 months or something, or 6 months before we had to leave. I can't quite remember, but anyways, we had a short amount of time to figure out what we were going to do. And so a lot of guys and gals that worked at the hangar for Air Canada at the time, they decided they're going to move, right? Because you can get transfers to other places like Timbuktu or who knows where. Like it could be Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver. You'll be overseas. It could be all sorts of places. So I decided, you know what? I just don't want to be away from my family commuting again. I don't want to go through another base closure. I wanted some control with my life. And I had maxed out. I think at that time in 2003, my maximum pay was fully endorsed. I was endorsed on a few aircraft, and I had a blanket license, they call it. And I was only making $33 an hour, which is just, it's crazy. I knew guys that were working on the bus station, changing brakes, making $50 an hour. Well, aviation's always been that way. It's been a squeeze for them to make a living. Anyway, so I decided, no, I'm out. I decided I was going to leave. It's crazy if you think about it, because I gave up the pension, I gave up some flight benefits. I just wanted to be free so bad. I just wanted to get the hell out of there. So I did, and I did some crazy things. I gave a lot of expensive tools to some other mechanics that I figured would need the tools. I also, I even gave up an old truck of mine, gave it to a young guy. I just didn't want anything. I didn't need the truck anymore. So I decided, well, let's just get out of here as quick as I can. Before we left the hangar, I was in a computer room. We have a computer room at these big bases where we work on these big airplanes, these jets. And the computer room's, 12 computers, 15 computers. And I was sitting there, and we were all talking about, what are we going to do with our lives? And everybody was kind of distraught. Their kids just got settled into their schools, and everybody was talking about where they're going to go, what bases they're going to go to. Maybe they'll quit this company and go for a different company, or stay within the company and whatever. And I was like, what? Screw this. I'm sort of getting into computers a little bit. I'm not an expert, but I can check my email. I went on the company computer and I typed in, I want to work at home on my computer. I want to work at home on my computer. And of course, lots of American gurus came up, and a lot of them were very slick, and they had some really slick ads, and I got to be honest, I just wasn't buying it. I'm super skeptical. I guess I'm a little cynical, sorry, but I did find one, and it was a guy named James Martell, and he lived in White Rock, British Columbia, Canada. If you're from Western Canada, you know all about where that is. It's a nice area. And I trusted James because he didn't give me the pie in the sky. He didn't give me, you're going to be rich and this is all going to happen so fast. And I think he used to say, I think it was him or maybe I made it up, I can't remember. I used to say, the key word in work from home is work, right? I got his book and I went through it. And of course, I didn't know how to write HTML. I didn't know how to build a website. I didn't know a darn thing about anything. Rudimentary HTML code. And to be honest, I know, never the sharpest stick in the shed. I barely graduated high school. I was more about having fun with my friends. But eventually I got my first website going, and I think it was golf equipment for you. And the only traffic I ever got was because I spelled golf apparel wrong. But here's the wild part of the story. I we actually made it, and I'm going to explain exactly how we made it, how we went from nothing to making about $3 million. Contacted James. I reached out to him because I heard he was coming to Calgary getting a car built. So I reached out and said, look, you know what, we'll get together and have dinner or something. Well, even further than that, I ended up talking to him on the phone, and we got along great. We hit it off because we're both we really love our business, you know. So he came and actually stayed with us, and then took us out for dinner to a place called Mother Tucker's in Calgary. And that was really nice because we didn't have a lot of money at the time. And he really encouraged me because I could tell he really, really believed in what he was doing. He was it was totally legit. And it gave me a ton of confidence because he could tell that I wanted to do it. And he told me that my websites, that I had two little websites, the golf one and I think a car one or something. And he said, no, yeah, you'll make it. So I was just over the moon. So I kept at it. After that, I didn't really hear much from him because he was busy back home working, doing this thing with his family and traveling and everything. Anyways, so I'm going to fast forward a bit now. I was making enough money to pay for my wages. And I think about 2 years later or a year later, Betty quit her job too. And so we were both free now. Maybe around 2006 by this time, we're completely free. And then it ramped up over the years. We were making all of our money just from the old days, it's just the old way. Like we have a website on whatever subject it was. We would put Google AdSense ads on the page. People would click those and we would get paid money for that, right? And we would sell affiliate programs, like whatever. Someone's buying a car, a book, a scooter, a pair of glasses, whatever. Didn't matter. I think I had a website on it called Bridesmaid Dresses. And my wife thought it was funny because I sat there for about a week writing about bridesmaid dresses like I was a real expert, you know. Crazy, but it worked. And that's how I made a lot of money. We got to the point where we were about 22,000 US plus a month. I think that's where we peaked. It was always up and down, you know, like it always should be. And that was it. And that was amazing because, you know, we were just knocking off our debt. Eventually we moved to Saskatoon back home here. Took us away from being kind of destitute and not knowing what we were going to do with our lives to being very comfortable and very free. And because of that, we had that RV, and we would travel all over the States and Canada, and we would work wherever we had an internet connection, just like the old cliche is now. Everyone's trying to tell you that story, right? But we were doing that back in the day when very few people were doing that. I remember my accountant saying, oh, no, this isn't going to last, you know. Plus, I got freelance jobs working for other companies because of the experience I got working on our own sites. I ended up working for some corporations. I remember doing some whiteboard meetings, and that felt kind of weird. Being there with my shorts and my flip-flops and my t-shirt in front of all these people at a boardroom full of suits. And I did that a few times. It was shocking how much they didn't know about the internet. Like, you know, lambs to the slaughter when it comes to these big companies and going to SEO firms. They get charged massive bucks, and I don't think they really realize they don't need them. And, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to try to sell you anything here today. I'm just going to explain what I'm working on. And I'm working on a project called the Vanguard Files. I used to say to Betty all the time, James Martell, he's my Vanguard. You know, he's my leader. He's out there leading the way, and I'm just following him. And he changed our life completely. To have this much comfort and to spend all of our 40s and 50s completely free, to do whatever we wanted to do every day, it was just amazing. And I'll never, ever forget him for it. Unfortunately, James passed away about 5 or 6 years ago now, and devastating to everybody, especially his family. My heart really goes out to Arlene and the kids. James changed a lot of people's lives. He was so dynamic. Oh, that's my dog. James changed a lot of people's lives, not just mine. And I encourage you to look him up. Look him up on the internet. You can search my name, Brent Truitt, and James Martell. Type in Brent Truitt super affiliate, because I was considered a super affiliate at one time, and that's a fancy name they give to people who were making quite a bit of money with affiliate programs at the time. If you stick to the basic steps of making money online, you can do it, and there's nobody going to stop you from doing it. So the idea of the Vanguard files is I'm going to take everything that James taught me, everything I learned over 20 years, all the years I was working as a freelancer or working for some of these companies. But if you want the honest to goodness truth about making money online, I encourage you to check out the Vanguard files. It's going to be released in December this year, December 2025. And you can check out all of the information there on my website. Dream Site Workshop is the name of the website. Dream Site Workshop. Thanks for stopping by. You can do this if you want to do it. I'm going to show you how.